The night was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums and makes every little sound explode in your head. The glow of the digital clock read 2:17 a.m., red numbers flickering weakly in Emily Carter's dark bedroom. She lay under her blanket, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above her, pretending to be asleep. But sleep had abandoned her hours ago. It started as a faint tapping, almost gentle, like a branch brushing against the window. Then it became deliberate, insistent, scratching. At first, Emily thought it was the wind, or maybe the old wooden door settling. But Max, their golden retriever, knew better. Max had been lying by her bed, his head on his paws, eyes half closed in contentment. Until now. He sat up abruptly, ears pricked, tail stiff. The scratching grew louder. It wasn't playful, it wasn't accidental. Max's low, mournful whine filled the room. His paws drummed against the floor, claws clicking on the hardwood in a frantic rhythm. Emily swallowed hard, her throat dry. She wanted to tell herself it was nothing, that this was just a dream, but Max had never acted like this. Not once. "Max, what is it?" she whispered, voice trembling. Her words barely carried beyond the walls of her room. The scratching stopped suddenly. Then a pause, a heartbeat of silence that made her skin crawl. Then, just as suddenly, it started again, louder, more urgent. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. Her small fingers gripped the edge of her blanket, knuckles white. The scratching seemed almost deliberate, like someone or something was signaling her, trying to get her attention. The hallway outside her room was dark, deeper than darkness itself, swallowing the light from her bedroom like a black hole. Max jumped to his feet, hackles raised, tail straight out like a warning flag. He bolted to the door, pawing at it, barking low and desperate. Emily hesitated. Every instinct screamed to stay in bed. Don't move, don't get involved. But curiosity and something deeper, a protective urge, pulled her out from under the covers. She tiptoed barefoot across the cold hardwood floor, each step making her stomach knot tighter. The scratching continued, rhythmic, as if impatiently waiting. Max backed away from the door when she reached it, his eyes fixed on her. It was as if he were saying, "I can't do this alone. You have to see it." Emily's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. She had always been told, "Never open doors at night, Emily, not by yourself." But she knew that Max was telling her something was wrong, something serious. The doorknob turned easily. She froze. The door was unlocked. A chill of fear ran down her spine, but she couldn't stop. The night air hit her face, sharp and cold, smelling of wet asphalt and something metallic she couldn't place. Max bolted out before she could stop him, tugging free from the leash hanging on the hook by the door. "Max, come back," Emily whispered, but the wind swallowed her words. Her bare feet slapped against the wooden porch, heart racing like a drum in her chest. She hesitated only a moment before stepping off the porch and onto the driveway. The street was empty, quiet, too quiet. Then she saw it. Footprints. Fresh, muddy footprints leading across the street toward the woods. The way they were spaced, deliberate and slow, sent a shiver down Emily's spine. Max barked once, a sharp, urgent bark, then disappeared into the darkness of the trees. Emily's pulse pounded in her ears. She knew she shouldn't follow. Her parents had told her never to go near those woods at night. They had said there were dangerous animals, even stories about people getting lost. But Max's whines were piercing her heart. Something, or someone, needed her. Her small legs carried her forward, feet slipping on the damp grass. Every snapped twig and rustling leaf made her flinch. The trees loomed around her, shadows twisting like dark hands reaching out. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy above, leaving only silver streaks across the muddy ground. Max's barking echoed, guiding her deeper into the woods. Emily tried to calm herself, taking deep, shaky breaths. Her mind ran wild. What could it be? An animal, a burglar, someone hurt. The scratching she had heard, was it just Max warning her, or had it been something else? Something alive. A sudden branch snapped nearby. Emily froze. Her heart thumped so loudly she was sure it would give her away. Max growled low, a warning rumble vibrating through his chest. She crouched behind a fallen log, pressing her body to the ground. A beam of light cut through the darkness. Someone had a flashlight. Emily's stomach dropped as she realized the beam was moving deliberately, searching. The light flickered across the trees, pausing here, hovering there before scanning the ground. Her breath caught in her throat. There, tied to a tree, was a figure slumped, barely moving. It was Mr. Harlan, her elderly neighbor who had gone missing 3 days ago. His clothes were torn, dirt smeared across his face, and his eyes fluttered weakly as he tried to focus on the shadows around him. A rough rope dug into his wrists. Emily's heart threatened to burst. She wanted to scream, she wanted to run, but she couldn't leave him. Max growled again, stepping protectively in front of her. Then she saw him. The man holding the knife, standing over Mr. Harlan, turned slowly. The flashlight caught his face. Emily froze. She knew him. Her stomach dropped further. It was Officer Daniel Reeves, the same man who had helped search for Mr. Harlan, the same man who had reassured everyone that the elderly neighbor would be found. He looked at Emily, not with surprise, not with recognition, but with something colder, calculating, as if her presence was inconvenient. Max barked violently, snapping Emily out of her shock. The dog's growl was a low, fierce warning. Reeves' hand tightened around the knife and his eyes narrowed. Emily's mind raced. Run, hide, call for help, but her legs felt like they were glued to the ground. She couldn't leave Mr. Harlan here, not like this. Then Max did something incredible. He lunged forward, teeth bared, barking so loud it echoed through the trees. Reeves cursed, stepping back, distracted, giving Emily a fraction of a second she could never forget. She backed away, trembling, heart pounding. She realized something terrifying. Max hadn't been scratching to go outside. He had been trying to warn her, trying to tell her that danger was closer than anyone could imagine. Emily's hand slipped into the dirt as she tried to steady herself. The flashlight beam cut across her face again. Reeves' expression hardened, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly, his voice low and almost calm. But there was something in it that made Emily's blood run cold. Behind him, Mr. Harlan moaned, barely conscious, his eyes wide with fear. Emily knew deep down that this night was far from over. Something had been unleashed, and she was standing in the middle of it with only Max to protect her. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the metallic smell closer. Emily realized she was standing at the edge of a nightmare she could never unsee, and for the first time in her life, she understood that Max had led her here for a reason. And what she was about to discover would change everything. The air outside felt impossibly cold, sharper than Emily expected for a July night. It clawed at her bare arms and legs, biting into her skin through her thin pajamas. Max had already darted into the shadows, a streak of gold and white disappearing into the woods, his growl vibrating like a warning drum. Emily hesitated at the bottom step of the porch. The front door of her house, the door that should have been locked, swung slightly in the wind. The chain lock hung loose, the bolt unlatched. A chill ran up her spine. She hadn't touched it. No one had. Her parents always said, "Lock the doors at night, always." Her stomach twisted. Someone had been inside her house. Someone had unlocked it. Max barked again, low and insistent, disappearing between the tree trunks across the street. Emily's heart slammed against her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to run home and scream, but something stronger, the need to protect, to act, pushed her forward. She ran, barefoot through the cool grass of the yard, her toes pressing into the soft earth. The street lamp flickered once, twice, then stabilized, casting a pale, shaky light over the street. The muddy footprints were unmistakable, deep, deliberate impressions in the damp ground, leading straight toward the woods. Emily crouched to look at them, tracing the edges with her fingers. They weren't big enough to be an adult male's heavy boots. They were medium-sized but spaced unevenly, like someone had been trying not to make a sound. Max barked again, louder this time, urging her on. The woods were darker than Emily remembered from the daytime. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches intertwining overhead and cutting the moonlight into thin, slivering beams. The leaves rustled in the wind, or was it footsteps? Emily couldn't tell. Every sense screamed danger. Every nerve in her body tightened like a drawn bow. And then she saw it. A flickering flashlight slicing through the darkness. It moved slowly, methodically, illuminating the trunks of the trees, sweeping across the muddy ground. Emily's pulse slammed against her ribs. Her stomach flipped. Her breath came shallow and quick. "Who's there?" she whispered. Her voice trembled. Max growled low, a warning, but Emily had no choice. She needed to know. She needed to see. She stepped cautiously off the path, hiding behind a thick tree trunk. Her small hands gripped the rough bark as she peered around it. There, a man, standing over someone or something. The flashlight shook, revealing a rope tied tightly around a figure slumped against a tree. Emily's heart stopped. She recognized the slumped shape. It was Mr. Harlan, the neighbor who had gone missing 3 days ago. His hair was matted, his face streaked with dirt and sweat. His eyes fluttered, barely conscious, searching the shadows for salvation. A sharp intake of breath escaped Emily. Her legs trembled. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run, but she couldn't leave him there, not like this. Then she saw the man's face. Her stomach dropped. It was Officer Daniel Reeves, the very man who had been helping search parties for Mr. Harlan, the same man whose friendly smile had reassured her parents, the man she had trusted. Emily's mind froze. Every instinct screamed danger. Max barked violently, snapping her out of the trance. The dog lunged forward, his hackles raised, teeth bared. Reeves cursed, stepping back, momentarily distracted. Emily knew she had to act, but she didn't know how. Her eyes darted around. The flashlight beam was moving closer. Every second felt like hours. Max barked again, louder, stronger, urgent. Emily realized something terrifying. Max hadn't been scratching at the door because he wanted out. He had been trying to warn her. Emily's mind raced. She could hear Mr. Harlan groan softly behind her. The rope dug into his wrists, cutting into his skin. He tried to speak, but his voice was faint, weak. Emily swallowed hard. She couldn't think clearly. Every muscle in her body screamed for her to run, but the thought of leaving Mr. Harlan there was unbearable. Her gaze flicked to Reeves. His eyes were cold, calculating, and there was no hesitation in the way he raised the flashlight to sweep over the ground, searching for any intruders. His other hand gripped something that gleamed in the beam, metal, a knife. Emily froze. The cold metal in her imagination made her shiver. She couldn't move. Suddenly the wind shifted, carrying a soft, wet smell, blood. Mud, she couldn't tell. Every hair on her arm stood on end. Max barked violently again, charging forward in a blur of gold and white. Reeves cursed, stepping back, stumbling slightly as the dog snapped at him. Emily seized the moment. Heart hammering, she crept forward, one small step at a time, keeping the trees between her and him. The beam of the flashlight swerved. Emily could see the rope around Mr. Harlan's wrists, frayed and tight. She knew she had to act. Her foot snagged a root. She stumbled forward with a soft gasp, sending a shower of dirt and leaves into the air. Reeves' head whipped around. His eyes locked on her. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, eerily calm, like he wasn't threatening but stating a fact. "It's too dangerous." Emily's throat went dry. Her small chest heaved. The night seemed to close in around her. Every tree, every shadow, every rustle of leaves felt like it could hide a threat. Max barked again, circling behind her, growling. Reeves' attention was divided. The flashlight caught Emily's face for a second, wide-eyed, pale, determined, and his expression flickered. Not fear, not anger, something darker, something unreadable. Emily backed away slowly, keeping the trees between her and Reeves. Her mind raced. Every story she had ever heard about the woods, about missing people, about the way adults could sometimes be the ones hiding dark secrets, crashed together. She had to find a way to help Mr. Harlan without being caught. The flashlight beam danced across the forest floor, glinting off something metallic. Reeves moved with slow, deliberate steps toward her. His knife reflected the moonlight, a sharp, lethal flash. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. Her mind screamed, "Run, hide, think." She grabbed a fallen branch, the bark rough under her fingers. It wasn't much, but it could be something, anything, to slow him down if she needed it. Max growled, a low, warning sound that shook through Emily's chest. She realized that her golden retriever was more than a pet tonight. He was her guardian, her shield, her courage made real. Reeves stopped, eyeing her with that impossible calm, his knife gleaming. "You shouldn't have come here, little girl," he said. Emily swallowed, forced herself to take a step forward. I'm not leaving him," she said, voice trembling but firm. "Not like this." Reeves tilted his head, studying her as if she were a puzzle. Then, with a cold smirk, he whispered almost to himself, "You don't understand." Max barked viciously again. Emily's fingers tightened around the branch. She could feel the tension in the air, thick as fog. Something inside her clicked. This wasn't just danger. This was evil hiding behind a badge, hiding behind trust. And Emily knew the night was far from over. She had crossed a line between safety and terror. The woods seemed to close in around her, shadows twisting, the flashlight beam cutting jagged lines across the trees. Her heart raced, every instinct screaming for survival. And then she saw it. Mr. Harlan's eyes flicked toward her, weak but pleading. Emily swallowed the fear clawing at her throat. She had no choice. She had to follow Max. She had to save him. Even if it meant facing Officer Reeves and the darkness he brought with him. The trees closed in around Emily like a living wall. Moonlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy above, leaving her in a world of shadows and flickering silver. Every snapped twig and rustling leaf made her heart jump into her throat. Max padded ahead silently now, nose to the ground, tail stiff and alert. Emily followed as quietly as she could, the rough bark of the trees scraping her arms and the forest floor damp beneath her bare feet. The flashlight beam had disappeared into the distance, but the air was still thick with danger. Emily's mind raced with questions. Why? Why would Officer Reeves do this? Where is he taking Mr. Harlan? Max whined low, stopping at a fork in the path. Emily's eyes darted between the two routes. One veered left, deeper into the woods, dark and shadowed. The other sloped downward toward a small creek. The muddy footprints from earlier led both ways in a confusing tangle. Max barked sharply, nudging the left path. Emily bit her lip and followed. Each step was careful, tentative. Every leaf that crunched beneath her feet felt amplified, every distant owl hoot sounding like a warning. And then she heard it, a soft groan. Emily froze. Max growled low in his throat. The groan came again, closer. Emily peeked around a thick oak and saw Mr. Harlan's familiar figure slumped near another tree. He was still tied up, blood staining his sleeve where the rope had cut into his wrist. His breathing was ragged, shallow. "Mr. Harlan," Emily whispered. She wanted to run to him to untie him, but Max pressed against her leg, growling. "Wait, we have to be careful." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of wet earth and something metallic. Reeves. Emily's stomach clenched. She realized the officer wasn't far, not far at all. He had been following quietly, silently, keeping the shadows between him and Emily's eyes. The flashlight flickered ahead. Reeves' voice whispered, sharp and chilling, cutting through the night air. "Emily, you're braver than I expected." Emily froze, the sound of her name slicing through the woods like a knife. Her pulse thundered. She scanned the trees, searching for him. The beam of light danced across the trunks, stopping for a moment on a patch of dirt. Then it moved again, like a predator circling its prey. Max barked, a short, explosive warning. Emily's chest tightened. Reeves was closer than she thought. She had to act. Emily scanned the ground. Twigs, rocks, fallen branches. Her small hands grabbed a long, sturdy branch, rough and heavy enough to swing if she needed. Max growled again, his hackles raised. He seemed to sense the approaching danger, and Emily clung to him, drawing courage from his presence. Suddenly, Reeves stepped into a moonbeam, the knife in his hand glinting, eyes fixed on her. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice low and calm, almost hypnotic. "This isn't a game. Turn back, go home." Emily's legs trembled. Her small frame shook with fear, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. "I'm not leaving him," she said, her voice quivering but steady. "Not like this." Reeves tilted his head, a cold smirk spreading across his face. "Brave little girl or stupid? Maybe both. You should have listened to the dog." Max barked violently, lunging at Reeves. The officer stumbled back, cursing. The sudden movement gave Emily just enough time. She ran forward, branches whipping her face, dirt tearing at her knees, toward Mr. Harlan. Reeves recovered quickly, knife raised. "Stop her," he barked, stepping forward. But Max positioned himself between Emily and Reeves, snarling, teeth bared. Emily slid the branch under the rope binding Mr. Harlan's wrists, trying to loosen the knots without drawing too much attention. Reeves advanced, knife catching the dim light. Emily's heart raced. Her small hands worked frantically on the rope, sweat and dirt mixing together. Mr. Harlan groaned, trying to lift his head. "Emily, careful," he whispered weakly. The ground beneath them was uneven, and Emily's foot caught a hidden root. She stumbled, dropping the branch. Reeves' eyes narrowed, and he lunged forward, knife raised high. Max barked louder, a sound that ripped through the night and leapt at Reeves, forcing him to dodge. Emily scrambled to her feet, adrenaline surging. She grabbed the branch again, swinging it with everything she had. The branch caught Reeves' arm, knocking the knife to the ground with a metallic clatter. Now Emily screamed. Max growled, snapping at Reeves as Emily lunged at Mr. Harlan. She ripped the rope free, pulling him to his feet. He swayed, exhausted, barely able to stand. Emily held onto him, supporting him as they stumbled backward. Reeves recovered quickly, eyes blazing. "You can't escape," he shouted, advancing again. Emily's mind raced. She had to think. Ahead she saw the creek, a narrow stream with a fallen log forming a bridge. Without hesitation, she grabbed Mr. Harlan's arm. "This way," she urged. They ran toward the creek, Reeves close behind. The log loomed like a thin, dangerous line over the rushing water. Emily's bare feet slipped on the mossy surface, her heart pounding. She felt the officer's presence behind her, every step echoing with menace. Max leapt ahead, growling, teeth bared. Reeves stopped just short of the log, snarling, clearly torn between following and not risking the fall. Emily's breath came in ragged gasps. She looked down at Mr. Harlan, who was trembling and weak. "Almost there," she whispered, more to herself than him. Then, in a moment of pure terror, a branch snapped under Reeves' weight. He cursed, stumbling backward, his balance faltering on the uneven ground. Max lunged at him again, forcing him to retreat. Emily guided Mr. Harlan across the log, heart hammering with every step. The sound of rushing water below was deafening. One slip and they could fall in, but somehow, by some miracle, they made it across. On the other side, Emily collapsed, hugging Mr. Harlan close. Max circled, barking into the woods, but Reeves had stopped. The darkness seemed to swallow him. His voice echoed once, cold and calm. "This isn't over, little girl." Emily's chest heaved. Her legs shook uncontrollably. She sank to the ground, clutching Mr. Harlan. He coughed weakly, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "You saved me," he whispered hoarsely. Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, Max saved both of us," she said, hugging her dog tightly. Max licked her cheek, tail wagging nervously, his body still tense. The woods fell silent again, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Emily looked back toward the dark forest, shivering. Reeves' words echoed in her mind. "This isn't over." Her small hands trembled as she realized just how close they had come to danger, how easily the night could have swallowed them. The flashlight was gone, the shadows receding, but the fear remained. Emily knew one thing with certainty. The woods were alive with secrets, and Officer Reeves, someone they all trusted, was the most dangerous one of all. She didn't know how or when, but she knew this wasn't the end. The night wasn't done with her yet. And somewhere in the shadows, Reeves was watching, waiting, planning. The moon hung low over the woods, a pale guardian witnessing the unfolding nightmare. Emily's bare feet pressed into the wet earth as she helped Mr. Harlan stumble forward, his small, frail frame leaning heavily on her. Max padded silently beside them, alert, every muscle tense. The faint rustle of leaves and distant hoots of nocturnal birds could not mask the silent danger stalking them. For a moment, Emily thought they had escaped. Reeves was gone, or at least out of sight, but her instincts screamed otherwise. Something about the officer's calm, precise movements made her certain. He wasn't hiding, he was waiting, bidding his time. "Stay close to me," Emily whispered to Mr. Harlan, voice barely audible. He nodded weakly, too exhausted to speak, blood still drying on his torn sleeve. The forest seemed endless, trees reaching like skeletal hands into the night sky. Emily led them along a narrow, winding path she barely remembered from daytime walks. Every step was a gamble, every shadow a potential threat. Her heart thumped so loudly she was certain it would echo through the trees and announce their presence. And then she saw him. A beam of light cut through the darkness, sharp and unwavering. Reeves stood in the middle of the path, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other, a calm predator in the moonlit forest. Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. "Emily," Reeves' voice was deceptively gentle, almost familiar. "I didn't expect to see you here." Her stomach sank. She knew him. She knew that voice, that posture, that unnerving calm behind a badge of trust. Her mind raced back to the search parties, the friendly visits, the comforting reassurances he had given her parents. He had been lying all along. Max growled low, a warning growl that rattled Emily's chest. The dog stepped in front of her and Mr. Harlan, tail stiff, teeth bared. Reeves' eyes flicked to Max, and for the first time his calm demeanor showed a crack of irritation. "You shouldn't be here," he said again, voice low but deadly. "This isn't your world." Emily's throat felt like it was closing. Why Reeves? Why him? Why Mr. Harlan? A cold, calculating smile stretched across Reeves' face. "Why? Because people like him get in the way, and people like you," he said, stepping closer, knife glinting in the moonlight, "think you can stop me." Emily's hands trembled, but she forced herself to stand tall. "You're not a police officer," she said, voice firmer than she felt. "You're a liar, you're dangerous, and I'm not afraid of you." Reeves' smirk widened. "Oh, but you should be, little girl. Most people would have run, screamed, or begged by now. You just keep getting in my way." Max barked viciously, lunging at Reeves again. Reeves stepped back with a grunt, swiping his knife defensively. The metal caught the moonlight, casting a fleeting, sharp reflection across Emily's face. Emily grabbed Mr. Harlan's hand, whispering urgently, "We have to move, now." They ducked into the shadows, weaving through the trees, Max keeping Reeves at bay with barks and sudden lunges. Every snapped branch, every rustle of leaves, every distant sound of a nocturnal creature heightened Emily's fear, yet sharpened her resolve. Reeves' voice called out, calm yet menacing, echoing through the trees. "You think you're clever, sneaking around in the dark. You're just a child playing at heroism, but heroes don't survive nights like this." Emily's mind raced. She needed a plan. She couldn't outrun him forever, and Mr. Harlan was too weak to move quickly. Then she remembered the creek from earlier, the fallen log. If they could reach it, maybe Reeves would hesitate. Maybe Max could keep him occupied long enough. "Over there," she whispered, pointing toward the glimmer of water through the trees. Mr. Harlan nodded weakly, trusting her. Emily took a deep breath, drawing courage from Max's unwavering presence. They sprinted, branches whipping at their faces, roots tripping them, mud sucking at their shoes. Reeves followed, knife flashing dangerously with each step. Emily's chest burned, lungs screaming, but she couldn't stop, not now. A sudden screech tore through the night as Max lunged at Reeves again, knocking him off balance. Reeves cursed, stumbling backward, giving Emily the opening she needed. She grabbed Mr. Harlan, pulling him toward the creek. The log bridge loomed ahead, slippery and narrow. Emily's mind raced. One misstep and they could fall into the cold, rushing water below. She steadied Mr. Harlan, gripping his arm tightly. Max circled protectively. Reeves emerged from the trees again, knife raised, eyes blazing. "Don't think you can escape," he shouted. Emily's heart pounded. She knew she couldn't fight him, she was just a child, but she could outsmart him. She took a deep breath and shouted, "Max, now!" Max barked and charged, leaping toward Reeves with ferocious energy. Reeves staggered backward, tripping on a root, knife clattering across the forest floor. Emily seized the moment, gripping Mr. Harlan and pushing him onto the log. Step by step she led him across, one hand holding his arm, the other bracing against the mossy wood. The water rushed below, dark and unforgiving. Each step was a gamble. Each second felt like eternity. Finally, they reached the far side. Emily collapsed to the ground, panting, heart hammering. Mr. Harlan leaned against her, weak but alive. Max circled them, still alert, growling softly at the edge of the trees. Reeves remained on the other side, cursing under his breath, knife clutched in frustration. His calm, cold demeanor hadn't fully returned. He was frustrated, not defeated. "You think this ends here?" he called, voice low and menacing. "You've only delayed the inevitable." Emily shook, chest heaving, mind racing. She knew he meant it. She knew the danger wasn't gone. Reeves wasn't just a man. He was a predator hiding behind a badge, a trusted face. And now he knew Emily and Max were a threat he couldn't ignore. Mr. Harlan coughed weakly, whispering, "You saved me, Emily, thank you." Emily hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "No, Max saved us both," she said, burying her face in her dog's fur. Max licked her cheek, tail wagging nervously, body still tense. But even as they caught their breath, Emily's mind was spinning. Reeves' words echoed, "You've only delayed the inevitable." The woods around them were silent again, but Emily could feel the tension lingering in the air, thick and suffocating. She realized the night was far from over. Reeves wasn't just an obstacle. He was a threat who knew her fear, and was calculating his next move. Emily looked at Max, then at Mr. Harlan. She knew they couldn't stay here. The danger hadn't passed. It had only shifted. And somewhere in the shadows, Reeves watched, waiting, patient, deadly. Emily swallowed hard. She wasn't a hero, not yet. But she would have to become one, because if she didn't, the woods, Reeves, and the night would claim more victims. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook. Her mind raced. But one thing was certain. Emily Carter was no longer a child who could be protected. Tonight she had to protect herself and everyone she loved from a man who had betrayed every ounce of trust they had ever placed in him. The wind rustled through the trees, whispering secrets Emily didn't want to hear. Somewhere a branch snapped. Reeves was still out there, watching, waiting. And Emily knew the real nightmare was just beginning. Emily didn't have time to think. The night air was sharp in her lungs, stinging like fire as she dragged Mr. Harlan forward. Max ran ahead, scanning the darkness, ears pricked, tail rigid. Every step they took felt like running through quicksand. The forest floor was uneven, littered with fallen branches and slippery leaves that threatened to send them sprawling. Behind them, a sound cut through the night. Reeves. His footsteps were deliberate, heavy, echoing across the silent woods like a heartbeat of menace. The knife in his hand caught the moonlight in a glint that made Emily's stomach lurch. "Run faster," Emily whispered, though it wasn't a suggestion. It was a command to herself, to Mr. Harlan, and to Max. The creek they had crossed earlier lay behind them, and Emily knew it was a temporary advantage. Reeves could follow. They had no permanent sanctuary here. She glanced around, trying to spot a route that could lead them to safety. Ahead, she saw it. A small service trail that led toward the edge of the forest and the faint glow of streetlights in the distance. She directed Mr. Harlan toward it, gripping his arm tightly. But Reeves wasn't far. "Stop," he barked, voice slicing through the trees. "You can't escape me." Emily swallowed the fear clawing at her throat. She had to think. She had to survive. She couldn't let Reeves catch them, not here, not now. Max growled low, circling, keeping the distance between Emily and the officer. Reeves cursed, trying to grab the dog, but Max was fast, zigzagging, snapping teeth in a blur of gold and white. Emily felt a surge of determination. If Max can protect us, maybe we have a chance. Branches whipped across her face, tearing at her pajamas. Her bare feet slipped on wet leaves and mud. Every second felt stretched, elastic with tension, as the distance between them and Reeves fluctuated. One misstep could cost them everything. A sharp crack echoed behind them. Emily spun her head. Reeves had thrown a branch, aiming to slow them down. It struck a tree with a thud, splintering. Emily's pulse quickened. He was clever, anticipating their moves. "Come on," she urged Mr. Harlan, who was staggering under the effort. The old man's breathing was labored, sweat streaming down his face despite the chill. The trail curved sharply, narrowing. Emily realized the only way forward was through a thicket of brambles. Her arms were scratched raw instantly as she pushed through, tearing at the undergrowth. Max led the way, growling at any shadow that dared move. Reeves followed, but his progress was slowed. Each step he took through the brambles made him curse and mutter under his breath. Emily realized something crucial. This forest wasn't just a trap for them. It could be a trap for him too. She ducked under a low-hanging branch and looked back. Reeves' flashlight glimmered through the trees, his face twisted in anger and frustration. He hadn't expected Emily to fight back, to be smart, to use the forest to her advantage. Her mind raced. We need to reach the road, the lights, people, safety. She counted the steps, gauging the distance. Not far, but Reeves' persistence was relentless. Suddenly, a snapping sound closer than before made Emily freeze. Reeves had found a shortcut, cutting through the forest to intercept them. Her chest tightened. "Emily," Mr. Harlan gasped, panicked. "We can't outrun him." "You can't stop," Emily hissed, forcing him forward. She grabbed his hand, dragging him along. Max barked furiously, lunging at shadows, keeping Reeves at bay. Reeves stepped onto the trail, knife raised, eyes wild with fury. "You think you can escape?" he shouted. "You're nothing but a child." Emily's heart pounded so hard she could barely hear her own thoughts. But one thing was clear. She couldn't let fear control her. Not now. She had to outsmart him. She spotted a fallen tree trunk across a small ditch, a natural barricade. Emily veered toward it, dragging Mr. Harlan behind her. Max followed, growling at Reeves, who cursed and hesitated for just a moment. Emily shoved Mr. Harlan over the trunk first. "Go, hurry," she urged. She followed, slipping on wet moss, hands scraping against the rough bark. Reeves lunged but tripped on the ditch, sprawling forward. Max barked triumphantly, nipping at his heels. Emily didn't wait. She ran, her heart hammering like a drum in her chest, lungs screaming for air. Mr. Harlan leaned on her, moving as fast as his frail body could manage. Every shadow in the forest seemed alive now, twisting, hiding threats. But Emily's focus was razor-sharp. They had to survive. The trail opened slightly, revealing the dim glow of the suburban streetlights ahead. Emily's heart leapt. Safety, almost there. Reeves' voice rang out, louder this time, almost a growl. "You can't hide from me forever." Emily's mind raced for options. "We can't outrun him to the end. We have to make him hesitate, slow him down." She scanned the ground. Mud, loose branches, rocks, anything that could create an obstacle. She grabbed a large branch, stepped aside, and hurled it at Reeves. It struck him squarely, hitting him in the shoulder. He cursed loudly, losing focus for a split second. Max took the opportunity to leap forward, snapping at him, teeth bared. Emily grabbed Mr. Harlan's hand and bolted toward the street. Her feet burned, lungs on fire, adrenaline carrying her forward. She didn't dare look back. She just ran, the glowing streetlights ahead like a beacon of hope. Then, just as they reached the edge of the woods, Reeves recovered. "This isn't over," he shouted, lunging toward them again. Emily stumbled onto the paved road, almost losing her balance. Her heart threatened to explode. She saw a car approaching slowly, headlights illuminating the dark road. Emily waved frantically. "Help, help!" The car slowed to a stop. The driver, a neighbor doing a late-night walk, jumped out. Max barked furiously, circling protectively. Reeves froze at the edge of the woods, realizing the witnesses could complicate things. Emily grabbed Mr. Harlan, pulling him toward the neighbor. Relief crashed over her in waves. They were out of the immediate danger of the forest, but Emily knew the night wasn't over. Reeves had seen her. He knew she was smart, brave, resourceful. Max pressed close to her, panting, but his body still tense. Emily hugged him, feeling the warmth of his fur, the rhythm of his breathing grounding her. Mr. Harlan leaned on her shoulder, exhausted but alive. Reeves retreated into the shadows of the forest, disappearing from view, but his presence lingered like a dark stain in the air. Emily's legs shook as she turned to the neighbor, explaining breathlessly, He tried to, he has Mr. Harlan, he." The neighbor nodded, already dialing 911, eyes wide. The words rushed out too quickly, but Emily didn't care. The important thing, they were alive. Max barked once more, low and warning, as if reminding Emily that the danger wasn't gone. The forest behind them was quiet again, but Emily knew Reeves was still there, waiting, calculating, planning his next move. Emily's chest heaved and she sank to her knees, holding Mr. Harlan close. The adrenaline was fatting, leaving a cold, sinking exhaustion. But in her mind, one thing was crystal clear. She and Max had survived for now. And somewhere out there, in the darkness, Officer Daniel Reeves was already plotting his next strike. Emily tightened her grip on Max's fur. She wasn't going to run forever. She had survived the chase, but the real test, the real danger, was just beginning. The night was far from over. The night air smelled of wet asphalt and pine as the ambulance and police cars swarmed the quiet suburban street. Flashing lights painted Emily, Mr. Harlan, and Max in shades of red and blue, casting long, jittering shadows across the houses. The neighbor who had stopped their car was speaking rapidly to a dispatcher, pointing toward the woods where Reeves had retreated. Emily clutched Max's fur tightly, still trembling from the chase. Mr. Harlan leaned weakly on her shoulder, shivering, pale but alive. The adrenaline that had carried her through the woods began to ebb, leaving a cold ache in its place. Detectives arrived quickly, pulling cordons of police tape around the area. Emily's parents emerged from a nearby house, panic etched across their faces. Relief and fear collided in their expressions when they saw her. "Emily, oh my God, Emily," her mother cried, rushing to hug her daughter. Her father's hands shook as he grasped Emily's shoulders, checking if she was hurt. I'm fine," Emily whispered, her voice hoarse. She looked down at Max, who leaned against her legs, still alert, still protective. One of the detectives, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard, crouched to meet Emily's gaze. "Emily," she said gently, We need you to tell us everything. Start from the beginning." Emily swallowed hard and began recounting every detail. The scratching at the door, Max's warnings, the unlocked front door, following the footprints into the woods, the flashlights and Reeves. Her words tumbled out, urgent, frantic, each detail a thread that pulled the story together. The detective listened intently, nodding occasionally, taking notes. When Emily reached the moment of the creek and the chase, the woman's expression darkened. "Officer Reeves?" she asked quietly. Emily nodded, teeth chattering. "Yes, he wasn't helping. He tied up Mr. Harlan. He had a knife. He tried to stop us." The detective's jaw tightened. She looked toward another officer standing near the woods who was already calling for backup. "We need to secure the area. Now." Emily's heart sank. "He's still out there." "Yes," the detective admitted, voice low but firm. "But not for long. He won't have expected you to survive the chase. That's why you need to stay right here." Emily hugged Max tightly. He nuzzled her cheek, offering the only comfort she had left. Then came the revelation that made her stomach twist into knots. One of the detectives approached, holding a folder. "Emily, the man you called Officer Reeves, his real identity is Daniel Reeves, yes. But what you saw tonight is only part of the story. He's been under investigation for weeks for multiple disappearances across neighboring towns. People thought he was helping, but he was using his position to hide his crimes." Emily's eyes widened. "Disappearances? What do you mean?" The detective took a deep breath. "Several elderly residents and a few younger adults went missing over the past 2 years. Reeves gained their trust as a police officer, using his badge and uniform to get close. Then he captured them. We've been tracking him, but he's smart, careful, and cautious. You, Emily, Max, and Mr. Harlan were the first to survive an encounter with him directly." Emily's chest tightened. Her mind spun. She remembered the calmness in his eyes, the smile that didn't belong, the words he had whispered, "You've only delayed the inevitable." The detective knelt beside Mr. Harlan, checking his wounds. "Emily," she said gently, "you were incredibly brave. If Max hadn't alerted you, if you hadn't followed him, you might not be alive and we might have lost him again." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. I just did what Max told me to do. He scratched the door. He knew something was wrong." Max barked softly, resting his head on her lap. Emily stroked his fur, feeling the warmth and courage that had saved them all. Meanwhile, officers began combing the forest with flashlights, looking for any trace of Reeves. Emily watched from the street, chest tight, feeling a mix of fear and determination. She couldn't stop thinking about the man she had trusted, the man who had hidden darkness behind a badge. The detective returned to Emily. "We've already found evidence tying him to the disappearances," she said quietly. "Documents, personal items, photographs. He wasn't just dangerous, he was meticulous. He planned everything. He knew people would trust him. That's why he's so dangerous. And tonight, he underestimated you." Emily swallowed hard. He's a monster." The detective nodded solemnly. "Yes, but thanks to you, Max, and Mr. Harlan, we can finally stop him. We need to get Reeves off the streets, and we need to make sure everyone he targeted is accounted for." Emily hugged Max again, feeling his warmth and steady breathing. She thought about the way he had scratched at the door, how he had barked and lunged at Reeves, how he had protected them all. She realized that heroes didn't always look human. Sometimes they had fur, 4 legs, and unwavering loyalty. Meanwhile, Mr. Harlan spoke weakly, voice hoarse from his ordeal. "Emily, you saved my life. I don't know how to thank you." Emily shook her head. "You don't need to. Max and we just did what we had to do." The detective handed Emily a small notebook. "We want to document everything, Emily. Your account is crucial for the investigation and for ensuring justice is served. Can you do that for us?" Emily nodded. She opened the notebook, handwriting shaking at first but growing steadier as she wrote down every detail she could remember. Every moment, every sound, every step through the woods, every interaction with Reeves, nothing was too small. As she wrote, Emily noticed something chilling. The scratches at the door, the unlocked latch, Reeves' calm, calculated approach, all signs of how close she had come to danger. She realized that the forest, the shadows, and the night itself had been alive with threats she could barely comprehend. Then came a knock at the neighbor's car window. It was another officer holding a small envelope. The detective opened it and glanced inside, eyes widening slightly. She handed it to Emily. Inside was a photograph, an image of Reeves, smiling at a community event months ago, holding a badge, surrounded by people who trusted him. Emily stared at it, stomach churning. It was impossible to reconcile this smiling officer with the man who had tied Mr. Harlan up, who had chased her through the woods, who had smiled as he whispered, "You've only delayed the inevitable." The detective noticed Emily's expression. "That's why we call him a wolf in sheep's clothing," she said quietly. "He knew how to hide his darkness, how to manipulate trust. But now, thanks to you, we can expose him. You've helped prevent further tragedies." Emily hugged Max again, feeling the weight of the night settle on her small shoulders. She realized that the world wasn't always safe. People could hide unspeakable evil behind the mask of authority, but courage, loyalty, and vigilance, sometimes from the most unexpected places, could fight back. Emily looked at Mr. Harlan, his frail body trembling, and then at Max. She realized she had changed tonight. She wasn't the same little girl who had been tucked in bed hours ago. She had faced terror, outsmarted a predator, and survived. And she knew that courage didn't always come in human form. The detective spoke again. "Emily, we're going to make sure he's caught, and then," she paused, glancing at Mr. Harlan, "and then justice will follow. But tonight, thanks to you, Max, and your instincts, a life was saved." Emily's fingers stroked Max's fur, tears streaming down her cheeks. She whispered, "You saved us, Max. You saved all of us." The night was still dark, the woods looming behind them, but Emily felt a spark of hope. Reeves was still out there, maybe lurking, maybe planning, but the truth was finally coming to light. Emily knew the danger hadn't completely passed. The world was filled with shadows and predators hiding behind familiar faces, but she had survived. And now she had a story that could warn others, a story that could fight back against the darkness. She looked at Max, who rested his head against her lap, ears twitching as if listening to the night. She hugged him tightly. And somewhere deep in the woods, a shadow stirred, watching, calculating, but for the first time not invincible. The world had returned to some semblance of normalcy, or at least, the illusion of it. Emily sat on her bedroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, Max curled protectively at her side. The digital clock glowed 3:14 a.m., its red numbers throwing long, jittering shadows across the walls. But sleep eluded her. Every creak in the house made her jump. Every wind-whipped branch outside her window sounded like the snap of a twig in the woods, the eerie rhythm of Reeves' pursuit still alive in her ears. She could see him standing in the shadows, knife raised, eyes calculating. She could hear his voice whispering, "You've only delayed the inevitable." Her parents had tucked Mr. Harlan into a warm guest room earlier, and a neighbor had stayed with them to ensure they weren't alone. But Emily felt isolated, trapped inside the walls of her own home, haunted by the events of the night. Max stirred, ears pricked, body tense. Emily stroked his fur, heart still hammering. "He knows something I don't," she thought. "He senses danger." The nightmares began before she even closed her eyes. In her dream, she was back in the woods. The trees towered impossibly high, black and twisted. Shadows moved with purpose, forming shapes that weren't there in daylight. Reeves' face appeared at every turn, sometimes smiling, sometimes snarling, knife glinting with each movement. "Emily," his voice hissed through the wind, carrying a promise of doom. "You can't escape me. You can't protect anyone, not Max, not Harlan, not yourself." Emily ran, barefoot, heart pounding. Max led the way, teeth bared, fur bristling, but the shadows were closing in, swallowing them whole. Twigs snapped underfoot, leaves rustled like whispers of warning. Every instinct screamed to turn, to fight, to survive, but the forest was infinite, the darkness endless. She woke with a gasp, heart hammering, sheets tangled around her legs. Max licked her cheek, grounding her in reality, his presence a lifeline. But the fear lingered, thick and suffocating. She couldn't shake the feeling that Reeves wasn't done, not with her, not with anyone. Morning came with reluctant gray light seeping through her curtains, casting a pall over the room. Emily forced herself to eat breakfast with her parents, keeping Mr. Harlan's rescue, Max's bravery, and Reeves' terror locked inside. She answered questions carefully, too afraid to reveal the full scope of the fear that still gripped her. But the truth was simple. The night had changed her. She had seen evil firsthand in a man who hid behind trust, behind authority, behind a uniform, and she knew the darkness wasn't gone. Her thoughts drifted back to the woods, the sharp metallic scent of the knife, the rope cutting into Mr. Harlan's wrists, the flashes of the flashlight in the shadows. Every memory was vivid, unrelenting, replaying like a film she couldn't pause. Max nudged her hand, whining softly. Emily looked down at him, eyes wide. "I know, Max," she whispered. "I know it's not over." Later that day, the detective returned, accompanied by officers carrying evidence bags. Reeves had been tracked, but he wasn't caught. He had vanished into the night, leaving behind traces of his crimes, footprints, abandoned personal items, photographs. But he was still free, still calculating. Emily's stomach churned. The idea that the man who had tried to kill her and Mr. Harlan could walk among the shadows again was unbearable. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and aware that every dark corner, every unlatched door could hide him. That evening, Emily sat by the window, Max on her lap, staring into the deepening shadows of the backyard. Every rustle of leaves, every passing car, every flicker of light made her jump. She realized the world had changed. The sense of safety she had once felt in her own home was gone. Her parents tried to reassure her, but their words felt hollow. They didn't understand the fear that had embedded itself in her bones, the way Reeves' presence lingered like a phantom even when he wasn't there. That night she had another dream. This one was worse. She was back in the woods, but it was different. The trees were closer, their branches like claws. Shadows moved with intent, forming shapes that whispered her name. Reeves' face emerged from every shadow, knife gleaming, eyes cold and unblinking. Emily tried to run, but her feet were heavy, dragging in the mud. Mr. Harlan appeared ahead, tied again, crying out for help. Max barked, lunging at shadows, but he couldn't reach them. Emily's hands shook as she reached out to him, but the darkness swallowed them whole. "You can't save anyone," Reeves' voice echoed, chilling and final. "Not Max, not Harlan, not yourself." Emily woke with a scream, clutching Max to her chest. She could feel the sweat on her forehead, the cold of the sheets against her skin. She hugged Max tighter, listening to his steady breathing, trying to convince herself it had been just a dream. But deep down she knew it was. Reeves was still out there, watching, waiting, planning. Over the next few days, Emily tried to reclaim her routine, going to school and helping her parents around the house. But the fear lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake. Every stranger's face seemed suspicious. Every unexpected sound made her flinch. She realized that even the familiar, comforting spaces of her life, her room, her home, her street, could be invaded by someone like Reeves. Max remained her constant companion, following her everywhere, alert, protective. Emily leaned on him, finding courage in his unwavering loyalty. She began to notice patterns in her fear. Every time the wind whispered through the trees, every time the mail clattered to the ground, she felt the presence of Reeves, as if the shadows themselves carried his intent. Then came the moment that cemented her understanding. A letter slid under the door, no return address, no stamp, only her name in careful, deliberate handwriting. Emily's hands shook as she picked it up. She opened it, finding a single sentence written in Reeves' meticulous style. "You've only delayed the inevitable. I'll be seeing you soon." Her blood ran cold. The nightmares, the fear, the tension, they were real. He was still out there. He had survived the night. And now he was taunting her, reminding her that the danger wasn't gone. Emily's parents were frantic when she showed them the note. The police were notified, but Emily knew deep down that this wasn't something they could fully protect her from. Reeves had planned meticulously, and he wasn't going to give up easily. She hugged Max tightly, feeling his warmth against her chest. He licked her cheek, sensing her fear but also offering reassurance. Emily whispered, "We'll face him together, Max. We have to." That night she lay awake, listening to the wind, to every sound of the house. Max rested beside her, ears twitching at every small noise. Emily's mind raced, plotting, thinking, remembering the forest, the chase, the rope, the knife. She realized the truth. Courage wasn't just about running into danger. It was about surviving, outsmarting, anticipating, and preparing for what came next. Reeves was smart. He was dangerous, and he was coming back. Emily didn't know when, she didn't know how, but she knew she had to be ready. And somewhere in the shadows, Reeves watched, calculated, waited. The nightmares weren't over. The chase wasn't over. The war between Emily, Max, and Reeves had only just begun. The night was suffocatingly silent. The suburban streets, usually alive with distant traffic and the hum of electricity, were eerily still. Emily stood at the edge of her backyard, Max at her side, ears pricked and body rigid. The letter Reeves had slipped under her door earlier still burned in her mind, a chilling reminder that he was out there, and he was coming for her. "Max," Emily whispered, brushing her hand over his fur, "we can't let him catch anyone else. Not Mr. Harlan, not us, not anyone." Max gave a soft bark, as if acknowledging her resolve. Emily's eyes scanned the shadows of the trees bordering her yard. She had prepared for this moment, rehearsed every movement, every escape route, every strategy she could think of. She had survived before, but tonight the confrontation would be direct. She crouched low, listening. Her heart thumped like a war drum in her chest. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a branch, every distant sound of the neighborhood became amplified, heightened, alerting her to the slightest movement. Then she saw him. Daniel Reeves emerged from the darkness, stepping lightly, unnervingly confident, knife gleaming in the pale light of a street lamp. His calm, controlled expression was exactly the same as it had been in the woods, calm, cold, precise, dangerous. "You're still here," he said, voice low, almost amused. "Persistent, brave, stupid, I like that." Emily's stomach turned, but her hands didn't shake as much as they used to. She gripped a heavy branch, teeth clenched. Max growled low, positioning himself between Emily and Reeves. "You won't hurt anyone else tonight," Emily said, voice steady. "Not if I have anything to do with it." Reeves smirked, stepping closer. "You think a little girl and her dog can stop me? I've planned this for months. You're brave, yes, but bravery won't save you." Emily's mind raced. She remembered the creek, the log, the forest, the way Max had protected them before. She realized that brute strength wouldn't win this fight. She had to outsmart him, use her knowledge of the environment, anticipate his moves. Reeves lunged suddenly, knife flashing. Max barked fiercely, leaping to intercept. The dog's sudden attack forced Reeves to retreat just enough for Emily to react. She swung the branch, catching him across the forearm, forcing him back. Reeves cursed, pain flickering across his face, but his grin returned immediately, calculating, relentless. Emily took a step back, dragging Max with her, trying to put the yard's trees and uneven terrain between them. She needed to lure him away from the open space where his knife could dominate. "Emily," Reeves hissed, voice sharp. "You can't run forever, you can't fight forever. You'll tire and then I'll." "Not tonight," Emily snapped, her fear replaced by fury. She planted her feet, gripping the branch like a weapon. "Not now, not ever, Max, now." Max barked and lunged, snapping at Reeves' legs. Reeves cursed again, stumbling slightly. Emily seized the moment. She sprinted toward the narrow alley between her house and the neighbor, dragging Max and guiding him with quick hand signals. Reeves recovered and pursued, knife glinting, but Emily was ready. She knew the yard intimately, every bush, every tree, every potential obstacle. She dodged behind a thick hedge, Max circling protectively, forcing Reeves to overshoot. She twisted around, leading him past the corner of the house where a wheelbarrow and scattered gardening tools waited. Emily grabbed a shovel from the pile, brandishing it in front of her like a sword. Reeves paused, calculating. He knew he couldn't underestimate her. He had misjudged her once before. "You've improved," he said, voice eerily calm, though his movements were slightly more cautious now. "But courage isn't enough." Emily's eyes darted, spotting a heavy metal gate leading to the backyard of the adjacent house. She realized it could be her final maneuver, a trap of her own making. She whispered to Max, "Now." Together they charged toward the gate. Reeves lunged again, knife flashing, but Max intercepted with a vicious snap, forcing him to stumble backward. Emily swung the shovel, grazing Reeves' side, enough to make him grunt in frustration. She reached the gate first, yanking it open. Reeves recovered quickly, eyes narrowed. He advanced, but Emily and Max slipped through the gate, disappearing into the narrow alleyway. Reeves cursed and followed, but the neighbors' homes confined him, slowing his movements. Emily led Mr. Harlan, saved documents, collected evidence, and even some personal items from the yard, tools, stones, anything that could create obstacles, into makeshift traps. She remembered every detail of the forest chase and replicated it here, improvising as she went. Reeves' face darkened. "Clever," he muttered, "but clever won't save you." Emily ducked behind a low wall, crouched listening. Max was alert, tail stiff, ready to act. Reeves advanced carefully, scanning, calculating every move. Then suddenly Emily acted. She triggered a tripwire made from an old rope and scattered tools. Reeves stumbled, falling forward, cursing loudly. Max lunged, teeth bared, keeping him pinned momentarily. Emily seized the moment, swinging the shovel and forcing Reeves back against the fence. He struggled to regain balance, knife raised, but Emily and Max pressed the advantage. Reeves' mask of calm slipped slightly, revealing the dangerous man underneath, impatient, enraged, desperate. He lunged once more, knife flashing toward Emily. Max intercepted, teeth snapping. Emily swung the shovel again, striking Reeves' shoulder, forcing him to drop the knife. Emily didn't hesitate. She grabbed the knife and held it firmly, facing Reeves. He was cornered now, trapped against the wall of the house, fury blazing in his eyes. "You're finished, Reeves," Emily said, voice steady but filled with the intensity of every fear and every nightmare she had endured. "You're not taking anyone else. Not tonight. Not ever." Reeves' eyes flicked to Max, then to the knife in Emily's hand. His jaw tightened. He calculated his options: escape, fight, or surrender, but Emily's determination, combined with Max's relentless protection, left him no choice. The sound of approaching sirens pierced the night. Police cars rounded the corner, lights flashing, officers shouting commands. Reeves' eyes flicked toward them, realizing the trap had finally closed. Emily stepped back, still holding the knife, Max growling at her side. Reeves' shoulders slumped in defeat. He turned slightly, then dropped to the ground in surrender. The officers moved quickly, cuffing him, securing the area. Emily's parents arrived, hugging her tightly, tears streaming down their faces. Mr. Harlan stumbled forward, still weak, and hugged Emily as well. "You did it," Mr. Harlan whispered hoarsely. "You stopped him. You saved lives." Emily hugged Max, overwhelmed with relief and exhaustion. "We did it," she said softly. Max barked, tail wagging, licking her face as if to confirm it. The police led Reeves away, and Emily finally allowed herself to breathe. The nightmares, the chase, the terror, it was over, at least for now. In the aftermath, news crews arrived. cameras flashing, neighbors murmuring. Emily, still small and pale but determined, gave her account. Max sat loyally beside her, the hero of the night. Detectives praised her bravery. They described her quick thinking, her resourcefulness, and the bond she shared with Max. Emily realized something profound. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was acting despite fear, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, and refusing to let evil win. That night, as she lay in bed, Max curled beside her, Emily felt a calm she hadn't known for weeks. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of safety wash over her. The world was far from perfect. Darkness still lurked in shadows, and nightmares might still come, but she had faced them, and she had survived. Max licked her hand one last time before settling down, his steady breathing a reminder that she was never alone. Emily whispered, "Thank you, Max, for everything." The night was finally quiet. And somewhere beyond the reach of her sight, Reeves was gone. But Emily knew one truth above all. Courage, loyalty, and determination could outmatch even the darkest of shadows. For tonight, the nightmare had ended.